Good evening, my fellow Americans. It is indeed Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. My fellow Americans, I'd like to take this time, of course, to wish you all a happy Tuesday. You know, if it's Tuesday, if it's 8 p.m., it's the Robert Duverny Show. Well, I'd like to give you a second or two to call a colleague of yours. Let them know that the Robert Duverny Show is on. It is on. We have so much on the menu for you this evening. I do not know where to start. But then again, with all due respect, we start at a time, we must finish. Is that correct? All good things must come to an end. Well, toward the end of the hour, the Robert Duverny Show will take its final breath until we meet again next week. Again, I'm going to give you a few seconds to call a colleague, call a friend. Let them know that the Robert Duverny Show is on. It's on. Well, my fellow Americans, come on out. Call your buddy, call your friends. We are about to start. We have, just so before we delve into the show tonight, what we have on the menu is, of course, Hurricane Ian. As you know, we were hit by this monster, the Mother Nature, a couple weeks ago. The state of Florida primarily was hit tragically. So kudos and also prayers and thoughts goes to the folks in Lee County, Pensacola area, of course Fort Myers, and Sanibel Island. We sent our condolences. We have quite a few deaths. And but we are the American people. We are resilient, and I pray that we help to some fashion. There are a lot of charity groups out there. American Red Cross. I encourage you to join hands with them, and of course, our great governor here, Governor DeSantis, had put a charity fund that under his name. If you want to contribute to this one as well, it will go toward these people as well. So again, do everything that you can, as long it's within your budget. We all Americans. When one is affected, we all affected, and then that's the notion that I'm taking with me. I've done my part, and I encourage you to, those of you watching the Robert Duverny Show, to also do your part. At here, we that's something that we is dear to us when our fellow Americans are in need, and we extend our helping hand. I think it's very important that we do that. That's the spirit of America. We are a country of love. We show love. We are a country of hospitality. We open our doors to a lot of immigrants who come here and attend the American dream. And this is us as Americans. And when our brothers and sisters within the borders of Florida are affected, we indirectly are also affected. So I figured it's very important that we share this with you. And then we have some news, which they're not great news, but then again, we have a total of 110 deaths. 110 deaths, 105 here in the state of Florida, and another 5 in the state of North Carolina. And our condolences to the state of North Carolina. That's according to the governor of North Carolina. And the 105 was confirmed by CNN. So this is coming from direct, good sources. And I'm sure we will rebuild, and we are American. The spirit lives on. Again, I encourage you again to not just pray for them, but also extend your hand. I mean, there's a lot of funding going on. There's Red Cross. There's so many venue that you can choose to somehow extend your love, your appreciation, and also your concern to those who are affected. All right, thank you so much, and we'll definitely revisit this idea in not too distant future. Thank you, my fellow Americans. All right, again, like I said, we have a lot on the menu. We figured we wanted to get some housekeeping work out the way. Tonight I'd like to take, there are quite a few good friends I'm looking at here, just logged in. My one and only, one of my favorites, not to say my favorite, Dr. Azor from the great state of Georgia. Georgia. Again, there's a lot to go on. I hope that Dr. Azor will chip in this evening, because Georgia is part of my list here. So I have a list here I'm going through. We're going to talk about Georgia, of course. Welcome on. I'd like to say good evening to Mrs. Boney from the great city of Miramar, who logged in. Congratulations, Mrs. Boney, for logging in. You have made the right choice by logging to the Robert Duverny Show. You're a smart woman. I'm sure America has a lot in store for you. So congratulations again for logging in. Again, we miss you. Without you, my fellow Americans, the show would not be possible. I encourage you every Tuesday, if you not busy, and then of course you can watch this broadcast in replay, but I'd like when we have you live, and we tend to exchange ideas, and of course and at the same time we can ask questions, and then those questions could be answered on immediately. And then this is what we do. This platform was created with you in mind. Well, I'm sure Dr. Azor has Georgia in her mind. All right, Georgia on my mind. Remind me of Ray Charles. All right, and I got Georgia on my mind. Well, of course, Georgia must be on your mind, Dr. Azor. Better be on your mind. All right. Well, my fellow Americans, again, today is, of course, the 11th. I'd like to say happy birthday to two of my loyal viewers here who watch the Robert Duverny Show on a regular basis. I'm referring to the champion for BMW in 1970 in France, Mr. Joël Godard. Joël Godard, je vous souhaite un bon anniversaire de naissance. Bon, comme vous êtes en compagnie de Hommage et Robert Duverny, vous regardez ce show-là, je vous souhaite déjà mes meilleurs vœux. Alors, pour ça, restez à l'écoute. Bon anniversaire encore. Au revoir. Ensuite, my fellow Americans, would like to say good evening to, of course, Mrs. Astrid, who's celebrating her birthday as well. Happy birthday to you. Those of you watching in at the Robert Duverny Show, we create a platform where folks from all walks of life, if we know some information about you, I would extend. At the Robert Duverny Show, we keep track of our loyal viewers, and those who are loyal to us, we tend to show them some love. And I figured I'd get this out of the way. Joël Godard vient me remercier. C'est bien, c'est tout le plaisir, hein, Joël Godard. All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you, my fellow Americans. My fellow Americans, we're only 27 days away from the election. 27 days. Need I say more? 27 days, less than 30 days. We don't have much left. We're in crunch time right now. This is the most critical time, and there are those who try to infiltrate the system. And what really got me this evening is, of course, the idea of poll worker. My fellow Americans, I am troubled by this. Those poll workers, with all due respect, these are folks who has a sense of civic duty. They wanted to help. They're doing something every 2 years, every 4 years, or every 6 years. Because as remember that we have deputy election, which is Congress, every 2 years, and the presidential election every 4 years, and of course the senator for the Senate, we have election every 6 years. So those poll workers, they are, to me, the backbone of America, of democracy. These are folks who are retired. These are folks who take time off the work to fill a duty, to help democracy. Yet, as of the last election cycle, many of them, particularly in the state of Georgia, and right now it's become so rampant, they have been receiving death threats. Is this America? When was the last time poll workers in America, let alone Americans, they don't even like to vote to begin with. We have a nation of 320 million residents. According to the last election, the presidential election, we have 82 went for President Biden and 80 went for former President Trump. So when you do the math right there, that's 162, is that correct? 162 million. We're a nation of 320 million. Not half of them voted. So what does that tell you? Well, I'm sure most of them, I'm sure there probably a handful of them who may not at the age to vote, and some of them may not U.S. resident, U.S. citizens. So I understand that. So we give and take. Now, when we see our fellow Americans are being threatened by exercising the civic duty and just getting minimum wage. In some states it varies. The minimum wage I hear from the state of Florida, it was $7.25, but correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm sure in some other states probably even lower. Probably $8.20, $8.75. I'm sorry, don't quote me on this one, but I'm no, it's under $9, that's for sure. The concern that I have, Ben Franklin was, after he walked the Constitution Hall in 1787, he was coming down the stairs. There was a young lady who asked her, Mr. Franklin, what do we have, a monarchy or republic? He said, a republic, if we can keep it. Well, that tells me tonight we have a republic here. If we do not do our part to uphold those fundamental rights that we have as Americans, to freely exercise our freedom. I'm not just talking about the Second Amendment. Most of you probably know freedom of speech and the right to bear arms. But they are more than that. We're more than that, Americans. We are more than that. If we cannot respect our fellow Americans, those who choose to be at the poll to serve, and that right there is alarming. I think this is a time that we need to ask ourselves, is our democracy at risk? I think that's a question that we as Americans should be asking ourselves. Is our democracy at risk? Thank you, Dr. Duverny. Minimum wage is at $10. Okay, I've been stand corrected. Thank you so much. Yeah, so these folks, they're not getting paid, but they are exercising their duty. I wish these folks need to be applauded. They ought to be. Right now, we having a shortage of poll workers. Nobody wants to do it anymore. Why would you do something where you're not even being appreciated? You're not even getting paid for it. Really? All you can get with whatever they get you is Gatorade after you're done. All right? And then give death threats. Think about it. That's un-American. We should call for what it is. It's un-American. Now we're 27 days away. The election board right now is hiring more security to be around these poll workers, just so they don't feel intimidated. They even hiring snipers. Yeah, because these people getting death threats. I mean, we don't know, or some blowjob could walk in a room and start acting up. So we need to call our elected officials. And yet again, who do we call? I mean, Dr. Israel in the great state of Georgia, I don't know which district you're in. I don't know if you would call Marjorie Green. I'm sorry, but no disrespect. But then again, I don't know, who do you call? I'm here in the state of Florida. Who do I call to uphold these inalienable rights? Wow, don't get me started up in here. Who do we call? Our elected officials, those that we vested that authority to represent us to the best of their ability. Are they representing us to the best of their ability? Yet we have an election just 27 days away. Do I sit home? Do I sit back and not taking part of this? No, I'm not doing them that disservice. I'm not doing them the favor. And we have so many of them who are, they call them election deniers. You know what I'm saying this evening, my fellow Americans, I'm not bashing a party, a particular party. I'm bashing my elected officials. I think it's time that we run all these guys in a room and then make them take an oath. Make them, and then live television, where they stand. Because politicians will tell you something behind closed door, and then in public they tell you something totally different. We need politicians with guts. In the great word of the Cubans, cojones. We need politicians with cojones. That's what we need. Not the like of Ted Cruz, who tell you something in the morning and then tell some, oh, don't forget my man, Lindsey Graham from the South Carolina. This guy, I don't know what he had for breakfast. All right. So this is what we have. All right. So I just want you to think about this. And then since we're in Georgia right now, Dr. Israel maybe can help me in this one. We have a Senate election in the great state of Georgia. We have 2 African Americans. I'm referring to Reverend Raphael Warnock against Walker Herschel. Again, to me, I take this is laughable. Imagine, Dr. Israel, I'm going to need you here. Imagine 2 African Americans. These 2 could not be. I mean, two different extremities. They could not be further away from each other. Reverend Warnock served the remaining term of there was a runoff election which he won, and then he served the last 2 years. And yet he's trying to get the full term right now. As you know, the senators are elected for 6 years. And there's a gentleman, a former football player. He had a great career, and he's running for this office. But the last I checked, when I was in school, which probably many years ago, almost a score years ago, I remember that to be a U.S. senator, it requires one with a degree of law, because you don't have to be a lawyer. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't have to be a lawyer to be a senator. But then again, if you're going to be a senator, I would understand that you need some understanding of the law, or even had a minor in even in political science or law school to that effect, because you're going to be legislating. That's your job, writing law. That's what, when you legislate, you're writing laws. So how could you write laws and you don't know anything about laws? Help me, America. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Would you expect me to conduct a surgery on you if I'm not a doctor? Would you? All right. So I think those 2 candidates, and then the 2 African Americans. The funny thing is, they are 2 African Americans representing the great state of Georgia. I don't know if you see the irony here. Help me here, Dr. Israel. And now there are those who want to make these 2 guys enemies and representing the state of Georgia. Georgia, of all the state, Georgia. 2 African Americans vying for the seat for Georgia. So this is what we have, America. All right, Dr. Israel's killing me here already. Walker. All right. So, and then this is what we have. I mean, as alarming it is, it's laughable. And I tend to keep my cool, and I'm embarrassed. As an African American, I'm embarrassed when I see one of these candidates even attempt to speak, even try to articulate a point. I could barely understand what he was saying. And I think it's a disservice to our people. I think I don't really think the party is really behind him. I think they're pushing an agenda to show that they are inclusive. Just a couple years ago, they wanted to. Just a couple years ago, they wanted to bring Tim Scott. You guys know Tim Scott from South Carolina. They're thinking about wanting Tim Scott for the Republican Party for president. Really? You know, that would be a topic for another day. But I think there's a level of hypocrisy and I think they're making a mockery out of these two. Not actually, they're not making a mockery of Reverend Warnoff. I think they're making a mockery out of Walker Herschel. I think they're making a mockery out of him. The guy, his personal life, that's his personal life. I don't mind about this. That's whatever he does in his bedroom, whatever he does in his when he's behind the camera. That's his life, you know. I mean, you're not gonna sit here. I mean, we're not electing saint, we're not electing pope in here. But then again, the guy is a guy. All right. So, but then again, I think it's really a disservice to African American to have a candidate of this caliber to represent a state of Georgia, and that tells me who Georgia really sent to Capitol Hill. I mean, you'll have the lack of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now you have, imagine if Walker Herschel were to win this seat. What would you have? Georgia, this is how you'll be represented. All right. So this is what we have. So and another note, I have to come back to my state now. Well, Mr. DeSantis and Mr. Charlie Crist, they agreed to one debate. Of course, it was scheduled for tomorrow night, but it has been postponed for the 24th. They want to give everybody a time to watch the debate. So Monday the 24th, that's going to be a good debate. It's something to look forward to. I really like DeSantis. I love his philosophy. And he's a guy, he's a true politician. If he sees a crack in the door, he's going to take it. But then again, as you can see right now, he's been himself because he has aspiration to run for office in 2024. And there are talks out there, would it be a good marriage between Trump and DeSantis, where DeSantis would be number 2. I don't see this guy be number 2 to anybody. So Trump cannot be number 2 to anybody either. So that's not going to be a good marriage, so it's not going to happen. Yes, you're not kidding. Yeah, DeSantis is running for president already. I don't know if you get to see him with his white boots. I mean, those were sexy boots. I mean, those boots are going on eBay, man. They get your boots, my fellow Americans. Get your boots. Get those white boots, man. And DeSantis really is really a great governor. All right, so stay tuned for more. Just another side note, it's already 8:23. Just last week, since we didn't have a show last week, we know that the Supreme Court has reconvened for the new schedule for 2020-23, that they have the new calendar year. We have Justice, we could say it, Ketanji Brown Jackson has sworn in. She's on the bench right now. She's on the bench, and it was a historical moment. And we all right, so we can afford to have Trump in jail, man. Things won't be fun. Now, I don't want him to go to jail. I want Trump to be going around and then making money, and then he's an entertainer in chief. So all right. Well, the new Supreme Court Justice Brown, she's phenomenal. She has a lot on her plate, and this is gonna be the busiest Supreme Court ever, because the topics, the cases that we'll be arguing before them for this calendar, it's nothing we've ever seen before. We have the affirmative action program is education, the LGBTQ and civil rights laws, and of course the Voting Rights Act. I don't know if you guys remember, about 2 years ago on the Robert Duverny show, we had a show on the Voting Rights Act and how it was been gutted out. You remember the case in Shelby County in Alabama? And so we've seen things come into fold right now. We're seeing full circle. What they did in the past, they chip it away. You know, it's like you try to, let's say if you try to chop a tree, right? So you cannot just get a hammer or a scissor just to cut it off. So what you just chop away little pieces by pieces, all right, on the other side until you get the meat of it. So that's exactly what they've done with the Voting Rights Act. So the Voting Rights Act, my fellow Americans, I hate to say it, there'll be a time that we may not be able to vote. The way things are going right now, if things are going at this alarming rate, I don't foresee an America where freedom, what we've come to know, or democracy as we accustomed to be around much longer. The rhetoric that's coming out of these elected officials' mouth, and it's quite alarming. And they have followers too, and there are those who can. Now, I mean, most politicians, my fellow Americans, they say things at times to prep you up. In other words, to get you fired up, and sometimes to make money, sometimes to get notice. But now we having politicians who are intentionally, that's their main goal, to wreck the system. That is problematic. That is problematic. Well, I think this is something that we should be thinking about. What are we leaving for the next generation? Can I sit home and not be participant in this election cycle? Yes, you should. You should be participating. I encourage you. Again, if you look at our democracy system that we have, there's a party who does not encourage you to go out there and vote. I mean, I don't care which party you're in. You're going to see that the Democratic Party, the main idea is to get people out there to vote. They figured, well, the more people who go out there and vote, the better chance they have to win. Now, the other party just tell you, no, don't go vote. You don't need to. And then that's what we as Americans should be thinking about. Why there's a party is pushing voting rights? Why there's a party that pushing the right to vote so much, and while the other party just sit back? Well, my answer to you is the fact that they control the state legislature. They are right now on the Supreme Court. They asking, can state legislature change election results? This is what going to be before the Supreme Court right now. Can state legislature change election results? What does that mean in a nutshell? That simply means that, let's say the state of Florida were to vote for Trump, all right? And Trump won the election. Trump won the state of Florida, and then in the state of Florida we have what you call the winner takes all. So in Florida, the state legislature right now, depending who's in control of the state legislature, and they have the right to either vote for it or against it. So in other words, Trump can win the state of Florida, and the state legislature, let's say that would have been a Democratic state legislature, they're in the majority, they can alter that. In other words, they can change the result. So in other words, the voice of the people is meaningless. Doesn't mean anything. So remember that we have what? A republic. So the people, we elected officials to represent us. But now, if state legislatures are making that decision out of it, they won't have a republic anymore. And that's how I started my show. Benjamin Franklin was asked, what do we have? By a young lady, do we have a monarchy or a republic? And his answer was, a republic, if we can keep it. Now, it's coming to fruition right now. If the Supreme Court has to intervene and to validate that state legislature can change the will of the people, now we're in trouble. So stay tuned, America. Stay tuned. I think we as a people, we must be vigilant. We must be aware of our surroundings. And I'm sure most of you may not, well, I'm sure this show right now should have been lighting up with 5,000 viewers right now. But I'm sure there's a sentiment out there, well, I don't reveal the politics. Well, I have news for you. Everything that we do evolves around politics. Simple as that. I have quite a few teachers on board. I have Mr. Ambrose from the great city of Miami. He's a teacher for the Miami-Dade District School. Dr. Azor in the state of Georgia, Gwinnett County. That's run by politicians. The board is elected by their public officials. So somehow you said, well, I don't get involved in politics. Well, politics will be creeping up to you. It will be creeping on you. Before you know it, it will be too late. There are stuff they want to reverse same-sex marriage. Yeah, it's on the ballot. Well, Thomas said it. Justice Thomas said, hey, we can look at that as well too. So it is a law. I mean, you look at things that were happening 1973, Roe versus Wade, and it was a law of the land, and just not long ago in June, this was reversed. So this is unprecedented. We never had cases like this in the United States, where a standing law of the land has been reversed. So these are the things that we need to start to worry about. I think it's time for us to wake up. To wake up, and some of you may have to run for office. I'll be your loudest cheerleader on the sideline from the Robert Duverny Show. Knowing that you are a participant of this great show, which comes on to you every Tuesday. But you have taken this position. I'll be with you. So we have quite a few things on the agenda that must be taken care of. Again, we're going over time right now. It's 8:33, but I figured normally we don't do international news, but it will be somewhat the lack of better terms, missing the point, not to point out what's happening right now in Iran. As you all know, brave women deserve our support. We have a case in Iran where a young lady, just 22 years old, by the name of Masha Amini. Masha Amini, she's an Iranian Kurd who died in custody of Iran's morality police. I didn't know that even existed. Morality police. I like to say morality police. Well, the morality police, what they do, they make sure that you uphold the Islamic rules. That as women, you wear your headscarf and you cover your face. But young people tend to be rebel. I mean, not all young people are rebel, but they have that idea that you don't tell them what to do. You don't tell young people what to do. Well, this young woman was unfortunately died in the hands of the police, and that has erupted anger. It had sparked so many other young people, young women, and there's a 16-year-old one who just vanished. They don't know what's happening they don't know what happened. I think there's a new movement in Iran. I give kudos to these ladies. We support you. Anytime you're fighting the oppressor, and you are the oppressed, and I applaud you. Keep the course, and there's a chance this movement will eventually topple the regime. One thing I believe, you don't mess with a woman. If my ladies are in there, I'd like to sometimes correct me if I'm wrong. You don't mess with women, especially when they're adamant about a subject. Try to cheat on your wife, man. They'll get you. There's no joke, okay? But again, I know you want anything done. What's his name? There was a man who said, if you want anything get done in Washington, get a woman. Eventually, that's exactly what Nancy Pelosi did. Okay, Nancy Pelosi, her husband did not cheat on her, but but she actually passed the ACA. She rallied all the troops and had enough votes, and now the Affordable Care Act is the law of the land. And but with the movement that's going on right now in Iran, I think they have a good chance of sustaining the movement, for the simple fact these young women, these young people, there's a lot of men who join the movement as well. They are resilient, and then this is what we need, and we need to support them. And how do we support them? By maybe by talking about it on social media, and bring some type of awareness. And I think that there's a page or two that we can take from these folks who are very adamant about something that they deeply believe in. All right. Well, it's already 8:37, my fellow Americans. I'd like to thank you. Um, Stay tuned on the topic, and then please bring your questions. I didn't see any questions tonight, but then again, I look forward to seeing you here next time, next Tuesday at the same time, which will be the 18th. All right. I look forward to seeing you here, and then always share this with a friend or a buddy of yours. Let them know that about the Robert Duverny Show. Again, my fellow Americans, again, you know, if it's Tuesday, if it's 2000 house, it's the Robert Duverny Show. It was a wonderful evening. I thank you, those of you who were able to make it on time. I see my colleague here, Mr. Ambrose. Thank you for logging in. Again, Mr. Goddard from the great city of Hollywood, now in Hollywood. Again, happy birthday, Mayor of her. And of course, all those of you who are celebrating a birthday this month, wishing you all a happy birthday. Stay tuned and watch the debate. Again, the gubernatorial debate for the state of Florida between Governor DeSantis and former Governor Charlie Crist is scheduled for the 24th of this month. It should be on Monday. It will be aired live, and I encourage you to watch it and then see what these two guys have to propose, what they have in the basket. To me, it's a given. We're not going to call the election right now. It's too early, but we know where it's going. It's DeSantis, you know. I can say that without a doubt. He has a momentum, on his back, and I applaud Mr. DeSantis. Last week when President Biden was in town, he really conducted himself. He rose above the occasion. So that's what true politicians would do. And when you have a state, as a governor of the state, you are the father of the state. Okay, this is and President Biden is our father, the father of the nation, for 4 years. So we need to show reverence and respect, and then he had displayed just that, and then so President Biden as well. Well, on this note, my fellow Americans, I would say this is it. Until we meet again next time, have a lovely evening. And if it's Tuesday, if it's 8 p.m., it's the Robert Duverny Show. Until next time, have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Foul. Number 2.